In the days of waiting for green to be released so that I can finally amass my bird army and conquer, white has been my color of choice when playing Battle Spirits Saga. I want to show off my two white decks and let you grasp just how different they are. For the first deck, it's White Control. This is the deck that I've played around with the most at this point, though I'm still not set on a single version of this deck. But for now, this is what I'm currently running. Let's start with the big stuff. 4 copies of Fanatec Elk. This is the win condition of the deck. And while we're here, I might as well talk about the 4 copies of Namangard. These days, you'll find it's more common to see the Elks played at only 3 copies, and sometimes you'll see people even cut the Elephant to 3 copies. I have both at full playsets for a couple of reasons. First, I'm playing Naman City, which we'll get to later. Second, I like consistency. Yes, it's possible to brick on these guys in the early game, but I'd rather deal with that than risk not seeing them at all. I'm not playing any draw spells like Starblast in this deck, so I want to see these guys as often as possible. Next, I play 2 Turbo Rex. This is probably the most cuttable part of the deck. It does feel really good when you have him out with an elk or an elephant, but I've also found it awkward if you don't have the proper support for it. There are times where it'll just sit in my hand because I'd rather have an additional body out. But I don't know. I'll have to play around with it more. I like the idea of Turbo Rex, but in practice it hasn't been as fruitful as I would like it to be. And rounding out the big guys, I'm playing 1 Dermdyna. I'm probably going to bump this up to 2 copies in the near future, just because I play against a lot of yellow and purple at my locals. He's a really nice way to close out games sooner than your opponents expect. Next, I play 2 Odin Type X and 3 Valkyrie Mist. If I was to replace the Turbo Rexes with something, it'd probably be 2 more copies of Odin. His bounce effect on blocking often allows you to get through opposing attack steps unscathed that you otherwise wouldn't, allowing your Elks to proc. My only gripe is it can be vulnerable to things like Burning Force if you don't immediately have the cores when summoning it. And then Valkyrie Mist is just amazing. She's a cornerstone in the white aggro deck, but even in this deck she's great. Sometimes I'm able to go for wide board swings in the early game thanks to her. And now the early game stuff, and I'll start with maybe the most controversial part, 3 copies of Naman City. Topping deck lists of White Control prefer to play only 1 copy of this. In fact, a lot of lists tend to not even play it anymore. I love it. I love opening this turn 1 and playing Elk turn 2. Sometimes Elephant if your opponent attacked. Maybe I'll change my mind on this at some point, but for now I really like it and will find any way to keep it like this. For the early game spirits, 4 Pegasion, which is standard, 4 Snowflaken, 4 Bullet Rays, and rounding out the early game, I also play 2 Automatic Gunners. Counting the 3 Nexuses, this makes 17 turn 1 plays, which means you have about an 82% chance to see at least one of them in your opening 4 cards. And that increases to about a 93% if you're brave enough not to mulligan. I care about this because my locals are all best of 1s, so I want to minimize as much as possible the number of games where I don't have a turn 1 play. As for the specific cards, I play Snowflaken cause I like having the anti-red cards, though you could just as easily switch out a couple of these, or the Gunners for Fola if you want. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Bullet Ray I feel like is standard at this point, it's just good stats for the cost. And finally, the magic cards. Here's my taxes for playing Battle Spirits Saga, and here are my taxes for playing White. In all seriousness though, Dream Bomb is so good. When this card was first revealed, I didn't think the burst effect would be that relevant, but no, it feels really good to bounce an opposing Netherworld Depths or Yellow Nexus back to the hand in addition to bouncing a spirit. Sometimes that kind of play is game-winning, because it puts your opponent back for not having enough symbols to make the plays they need. And for the rest of the magic cards, I play 3 Suppression, 3 Regain, and the main reason why some of my ratios are weird, 3 Core Drains. I will fully admit, The story of why the core drains are in here is because of one card. Alice. I had a bad experience with her and I wanted a clean answer. Core Drain is what I came up with. It's also a big reason why I was initially willing to try out Turbo Rex in the deck because the two cards combo well together. But even without Turbo Rex, it also just has some nice synergy with Fanatec Elk. Typically, Elk is going to block big guys that it's not able to kill, and Core Drain can be a nice follow-up to take care of it. And Suppression and Regain need no introduction, although I suppose realistically it should be 4 Suppressions and 2 Regains, but I like the fact that Regain can be used both defensively and offensively. We move on to the second white deck, and it's White Aggro. We'll go a little faster for this one since this deck is a lot simpler. For the cheap spirits, we have 4 Ducks, 4 Gunners, 4 Satellites, 4 Bullet Rays, and 4 Librarians. Librarian is especially good thanks to how well it combos with Regain. And no, I haven't pulled off the fabled turn 2 kill, but in fairness, I've been playing Control deck more than this one. We also have 4 Raccoons, 4 Pegascions, 4 Tanks, and 3 Mobile Golems. I used to play Snowflakens over the Raccoons, and honestly, you probably could do that if you wanted, but I like that the Raccoon gets to 5k with only 2 cores. In this deck, I like having the bigger number. And if you're wondering why Mobile Golem and not the Monkey card, it's purely because it's a mecha for Curiosity. And Curiosity's protection effect is better than I originally thought. My favorite is if you attack with Curiosity and your opponent tries to use Deadly Balance. You can select Curiosity, its effect will protect while having the attack still continue. Its effect is more relevant than you might assume at first glance. And of course, we have the star of the deck, Valkyrie Mist. She is the entire reason why this deck is so good in the first place. The ability to bounce a guy while also putting down your own with a single card is game-winningly strong. I feel like I don't need to say much more than that, she's just the GOAT. And for the last spirit, 1 Dermdyna. You could cut this card if you wanted, but I like having it around, and the unblockable attack for game has come up before. And then the magic cards. First, we play 0 Ice Shields. This is the deck that doesn't play Ice Shields. That's because in a hyper aggro deck like this one, you want to see as many cheap spirits as possible, and the Ice Shields just get in the way of that. The only magic cards in this deck are 4 Dream Bombs, 4 Regains, and 2 Suppression. You really could cut the Suppressions for more spirits. The other 2 are staples and are pretty self-explanatory. And those are my 2 white decks. Let me know if you would like to see more videos like this by liking this video and leaving a comment. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button to see more Battle Spirits Saga content. Until next time, laters.